Hey Flames fans, welcome to another edition of Flames Unfiltered, hosted by Brad Burud and myself, Kyle Lewis. Brad, talk to me. What's happening?
Flames are winning. Disaster struck this week with the injury.
Yes.
But, it's been a pretty solid week. I mean, really, we had the delay in the middle there with the unfortunate stuff in California, but holy cow, I mean, the win last night is a big 2 points, and we're at the midway point of the season and 1 point out of a playoff spot.
Yeah. And Jonathan Huberdeau is on pace for a career-high 36 goals. Who saw that coming?
And he had one last night, too, that I thought he was going to bear.
Another game winner. Another game winner last night, too. I should put that out.
Oh, my gosh. No, this guy's been good. I mean, we've been so hard on him for, what is it, 3 years now since we got him? And
It's third season. Yep.
It's fun. It's really fun to see the change in his play and how he's shooting the puck so much more and how he's become a threat in front of the net, and it's definitely equaled success not just for him but for the team, right?
Yeah, 100%. It's interesting because we've been trying to figure out this team all season, and I think we both just kind of accepted based on some prior conversations that this is our fate. We're going to be in and out possibly the rest of the year, and we'll see what that means come April. But at the very least, I don't care what a person's stance is, at the very least, it's meaningful hockey. And we didn't always believe we were going to have that at this point in the season. So I'll take it.
I didn't think we would this year. I did. I thought by now that we would be solely looking at prospects and living at hope. And right now we're watching the development of some young players, and it's not only giving us hope, but it's also entertaining as hell and exciting right now.
Is there a more fun goaltender to watch right now than Dustin Wolf?
No. I mean, I wouldn't mind having that either, but I mean, Dustin Wolf has been good. That save he made last night is a 10-beller with about 2 minutes to go, and a little over 2 minutes. And I don't know. I mean, he's silenced all the critics just like he did in junior hockey, just like he did in the American Hockey League. And so far, so good. I mean, I don't think anybody can say, yeah, he's going to be good for 100% sure. But like, I look at players like him and Zary and Coronato and the steps that we dreamed and wanted to have happen have happened.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, Coronato was I would dare say inarguably the best Flames forward in the LA game. Had a goal and assist, another beautiful shot on his goal, 10th of the year. There's a lot of stuff going right. I mean, there's still some obvious holes, particularly in the scoring department, but we're right there, and we're right there week after week, and they just won't go away. So let's just enjoy it while it lasts.
I was thinking about this last night, because you just mentioned the difficulty scoring, and I mean, it's an obvious problem. I mean, all of us see it, and I don't think there's a quick fix for it. But you know what I think, and maybe our fans up north, the Edmonton fans, will be able to let us know how they feel on this. But do you not, when you're thinking about hockey and building a team, is it not easier to find offense when you have good goaltending and good defense than it is to find good goaltending and good defense when you have good offense?
That's an interesting one. I'm not really sure.
I just feel like it's harder to build. It's harder to find a solid goalie you can trust, and it's harder to build a strong core of defense than it is to find a core that can put some points on the board. Because when you build an offense, like we've had so many of them that would just look so good on paper, but don't produce offense, right? And then you find a way to find some pairings, like, remember when oh gosh, Yuri Hudler. Remember when we brought him in and he sparked the offense, and none of us thought that Yuri Hudler was going to be the answer there, but it was. So there's pieces that we can fit in here along the way, and with the development of Zary and Coronato going in the right direction, and quite honestly, possible for that matter too. We've got a lot of things offensively working in the right directions. It's going to take some time, right?
Yeah, I mean, but it's already ahead of, I think, what a lot of us expected. Zary with that knee injury obviously sets him back a bit, but nothing's torn, so he will be back easy. But yeah, I mean, he's been fantastic. Coronato, 10 goals this season and the most lethal shot on the team altogether. I would say Sharangovich is up there, but he just doesn't have the confidence right now. So, the rebuild, retool, whatever you want to call it, I think is ahead of schedule.
I would say so. Let's talk about like the biggest moment of the week, and that was Connor Zary getting hurt. I mean, the hit from Drew Hellison, boy, I think all of us sunk down in our chairs on the couch and looked at the standings. You said a few prayers and looked at the standings and said, yeah, we're probably headed that way, not that way, right?
Absolutely. 100%.
To me, it
looked
bad.
It looked real bad the way he was clutching the way he got hit, the way he was clutching his knee, first and foremost, I should say, the way his knee bent on impact was blech.
It looked like the hit was even above the knee. So, like, if we hear it's a deep thigh contusion, I'm not going to be surprised because that's where it looked like to me. And quite honestly, I mean, I don't know if I'm just always looking at the bad side of things, but I instantly thought, holy cow, did he break his femur?
Oof. Yeah, well, the thing it was too, even in the aftermath, we didn't get an update for a little while because of the amount of swelling around the knee, right? So it was difficult to actually assess the damage, which was kind of more concerning in a way, but also gave us some hope. And I mean, realistically, based on the impact and the way it all happened, it was the best case scenario. So, but much like you, and I'm sure so many others, it was like, holy shit, this is really, really bad. Especially we already lost Mantha and Kirkland this year to, serious knee injuries.
So Thursday it came out that there was no damage to the ACL or MCL. They did say that they were still looking further into other damage that can happen, the meniscus damage and things like that. So, I mean, he's not out of the woods. This could be we'll find out more information this week, it sounds like, but week to week or longer term, it's not a day-to-day situation from what I can gather and what I'm hearing. But it was a scary one. And when I first saw the hit, I thought dirty right away, but I don't know, what were your thoughts on the hit itself?
I certainly didn't like it. I think it was reckless. I don't think it was intentional. As we've often talked about, hockey's a fast game, obviously, and the way that Zary gains his own. I mean, he's a pretty shifty player, and this was a case of a player stepping up and sticking his leg out, slightly in my view at least, and Zary kind of slowly trying to drag himself out of the way. Just really bad timing. Do I think there should have been supplemental discipline? Some, yes, at least in the form of a fine, because I thought it was reckless. But it was just a really unfortunate play.
I watch it, and my first thought was, oh yeah, suspension, Then I watched it over and over the next after I got a little bit more clearer mind on it. But, it looked like he went to hit him in the chest, and Zary skates with a really wide base. Yeah. And Zary shifted over, and his leg was there, and Hellison missed the body, and that's where he landed. And it's definitely a penalty. I was not upset, I guess, the next day when there was no supplemental discipline, just because after watching it and slowing it down, I was like, I can see the justification on it, right?
I think more than anger, it was concern, right? When you have that emotion first, I mean, it should be your first emotion, but when you're not overcome with, holy shit, what a dirty play, that instant reaction should tell you, if it was bad, it wasn't that bad, I guess.
Well, I don't like the hit, but I likened it to the hit in the World Juniors when Team Canada hit the kid from, was it Czechia?
Yeah.
It was a lot of the same, right? I mean, it was a lot of the same.
Yeah.
I don't think either one were out to tear a guy's knee apart, but they both probably deserved what they got, but probably not more, because I don't think there was it wasn't like he went and stuck his knee out at him. I guess he drove straight into it. It was all in all, though, I was really scared about the injury, and I'm still a little concerned on how long it'll take and what it's going to take to come back from a hit like that. But I don't know, can its team survive without him? I mean, can we survive in this race without him? It looked like it last night, I guess.
Not in the first period.
No.
But overall, I mean, scoring is already a problem. So using an offensive-minded center like that is a big blow. I think it's going to take some creativity to continue to stay in the playoff race without him for however long it is. I did think, apart from the clear lack of confidence because he wasn't really shooting, Kuzmenko looked a lot better against LA. He was creating some chances here and there. Sharangovich, I'm still concerned about as well. I mean, those two guys need to step up in a big way to overcome this injury. If they don't, we don't overcome it, because even with a guy like Rory Cairns coming up from an excellent season thus far in the AHL, that's not going to solve our scoring woes, right? But
no.
it may help if he can assert himself quickly, which, I mean, who knows? He hasn't played yet.
I think Sharangovich is the key, though, is he not? Like, he's the guy that has the most potential to get some scoring out of. I mean, he has been struggling mightily, but his shots are getting, I mean, he's getting more chances. He's looking like he has a little more pace to his game. I guess I like the direction it's trending. And if we could have him step up with goal production, that would help fill that void. Because I surely don't think we can sit and look at an AHL call up and live on our dreams with that. Not saying we won't have some success with an AHL call up. I'm just saying that's probably not the place to put pressure on right now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's gonna be by committee. It's gonna be by committee for sure.
I think Sharangovich is a key, and I also think that you mentioned Kuzmenko, who's been, I don't know, looks maybe a little better, but she's still not pushing the needle at all for me.
Yeah, I mean, Sharangovich is the same. Like, the results aren't there, and they got to come soon. So yeah, I at this point, jury's out. I mean, if they keep getting goaltending like the Wolves providing, they're going to be in every game, quite frankly, or damn near all of them. Depending on how often he starts now. I like to think he's going to get a little bit more of a chance to run with the ball, but the goal's got to come from somewhere. And it can't just be, it sounds funny to say because a year ago we never would have said this, but we can't just rely on Huberdeau to score them all.
Oh my goodness. If we would have said that a year ago, people would have had a heart attack while listening to the show.
Yeah, right. Right. So one of the things as it pertains to all this that I wanted to mention, you and I talked about a little bit earlier, all the tank talk around the team and fans expressing frustration because, we're picking up points, we're in a playoff race, and we shouldn't be because we want all these high draft picks. And it was funny. So, as you well know, Jim Gaudreau and I are really good buddies, and he came up and stayed the weekend with me and, got to come to the Atlantic part of Canada for the first time. And we were talking about that a little bit last night. And, Dustin Wolf's a 7th-round pick. Johnny Gaudreau was a 4th-round pick. Pavel Datsyuk was drafted late. Like, there's all this emphasis in these first-round picks. And a guy like Sam Bennett didn't really work out in Calgary for a few different reasons in my own mind, but he's, found his offensive game in Florida. First-round picks don't guarantee success, as we've seen and repeated many times, with the Sabres and at one time the Oilers. But the whole way along, you've got the Flames have a great AHL team in the Wranglers. They're developing prospects at every meaningful level of hockey. Like Henry Muse is first in OHL defenseman scoring, for example. We're getting assets at every turn. So at some point, whether it's a guy like Dylan Cousins, who's been talked about, potentially leaving Buffalo several times, we have the pieces many teams don't to make a trade to get an offensive player. It may not be a generational talent unless something really goes crazy somewhere, but everything is still trending in the right direction. And if you're a true hockey fan, in my mind, and we've talked about this too, you want playoff hockey, you want playoff revenue, you want games that mean something, which to this point we still have. And it's I don't know how you root against your team doing well. I just don't understand that line of thinking. It's not to say that we think we're going to go on a deep playoff run with the roster we have, because we're not.
We didn't think that in 2004, though.
No, a different era and different team. And that brings me to another point I'll get to here in a second. But it's, Dustin Wolf could steal a playoff series. There's not a doubt in my mind he could do that. And it could very well happen as early as this season, which sounds nuts to say, but it's just the truth. And we've got a potential franchise goaltender. We've got a pretty solid defense. Those two things, they could take you a long ways.
Well, and the thing is, too, I think the goal that all of us want is for this team to be contending for a Stanley Cup. And a few years ago, we did that on paper, but didn't do that on the ice, and it didn't feel very good. Well, now it doesn't look really good on paper, but we're getting wins and we're developing and moving these young players into positions of strength for the future. And if we could be guaranteed, by tanking that you're going to win, then I'm all for it. But there's no guarantee on that. Ask the Buffalo Sabres, ask the Edmonton Oilers, and the list goes on and on. And I like the direction we're going. I like what we're seeing. I like some guys like, the Kevin Ball trade when it happened. I think all of us looked at each other and were like, okay. But you know what? He's been a serviceable, defenseman this year that would be a wonderful third pairing guy or even a second pairing guy that I think there's a lot on this team that is being overlooked by the fan base as far as positives. I think we all want to be sitting on top of the Pacific and be in the driver's seat come playoffs, but there's only, 4 teams that are in the division leads right now. In that's just the way it is in hockey. It's a hard place to get to, and that doesn't guarantee you success either. So it seems like every year there's a first round upset.
Yeah, that's what makes it fun.
Now, the mucky middle, yeah, we've all said that, and I know you've complained about it, and quite honestly, I have too over the years. But I would surely rather be in the mucky middle than be the Buffalo Sabres, wouldn't you?
Oh yeah, most certainly. And I mean, look at it this way too, and this is kind of a seemingly obvious but fun fact to state. How many teams are 1 point out of a playoff spot with $34 million in cap space available to them?
Well, and that's just it. And if we could just somehow get a young center to fill a spot for us and then continue that build and continue to bring in our young talent and supplement it with some other pieces, we have the cap to do that. Boy, it's going to put us in a real position of power.
Well, I mean, and I keep looking at the same position. I mean, right? You've got, in terms of a possible trade for somebody like a Dylan Cousins, just as an example, because again, his name has been floated out there probably the most. Muse, Parek, Brustevich, Morin. I mean, 4 offensive defensemen. There's a team that's going to want a puck-moving defenseman to quarterback their power play in 5 or 6 seasons, right, or sooner.
And we can't have 4.
No, and that's the thing. There's no harm in hanging on to them for now. It's great. I mean, just sit back and watch your team, scrap for points every night. And anyway, I mean, we'll see how that plays out. But again, we have the pieces to do some things, and I think that's a very enviable position to be in. So all this focus on losing or tanking or getting higher picks or worrying because a pick we're going to lose, whether it was when we traded to Montreal or otherwise, it's like at the end of the day, like we're trending in the right direction. And if you're looking at every little transaction or every little piece, as some kind of a problem, it's instead of looking at the totality of, hey, we're in a great position, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice as a fan, I feel.
I like to watch meaningful hockey, and I surely didn't think this time of year, this year we would be. So I guess we have to be thankful, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's just it. So one of the things that I wanted to mention earlier that you kind of got me thinking about when you mentioned 04, did you happen to see After Hours after the Kings first game? So unfortunately, Michael Backlund couldn't join. I believe he was having some maintenance done with the training staff. But seeing Regeer and Conroy and Rasmus Anderson talk with Scott Oak and Ryan Leslie was pretty cool, and it brought back some really fond memories. And what I liked about Regeer's comments were he didn't over romanticize the 04 Cup run as we often do, because ultimately they did lose.
Yep.
And it's a tough pill to swallow, but it's our only measure of success, other than a couple division titles in the last, and a couple. I shouldn't say that really, because a couple of playoff runs in 15 and 22, but it was our biggest amount of success since they won the Cup, bar none.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And
it's good to look back on it fondly, but I like the fact Regeer was very candid and was like, ultimately we didn't get the job done.
That's Robin Regeer. That's why I loved him so much over the years. He just speaks the truth, and he's just a gritty, normal human being, right? And
still gritty, evidently, based on his comments about the Northern Alberta hockey tournament with Al Shemsky and their continued distaste for one another.
That's a great. What the Flames did is they named a Flames quarter-century first and second team.
Yes.
And let's go through those teams as I have them right in front of me here. The first team Jerome McGinley, Johnny Gaudreau, Matthew Tkachuk are the forwards. Mark Giordano, Robin Regeer, defenseman, Mika Kiprusoff, goalie. Any arguments from you there?
Absolutely not. I don't think there's a logical argument to be made.
I think it's pretty cut and dried there. I can't think anybody I would change, I guess. Team number 2 had Backlund, Conroy, and Monahan as the forwards, Anderson and Phaneuf as the defenseman, and Jacob Markstrom as the goalie. I really couldn't find a heck of a lot of argument here. I was maybe a tiny bit surprised that Rasmus Anderson and Craig Conroy were on there, but when I started going through the lists, I can see it completely, I guess.
Yeah, Conroy did a lot of the similar work as to what Backlund does. He provided some offense, sometimes quite a bit of it, but he was a perennial Selke candidate like Backlund often is. So there's a huge parallel between the way those two guys play the game in terms of being responsible and reliable in all situations. What it got me thinking about, this is what I want to talk to you about because I thought this would be fun, was an honorable mentions list. So I have a few names in mind for this, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot. I didn't ask you earlier because I wanted you to really just kind of think off the cuff with it. So I'll list, what have I got now? I'll say 4 guys. I could probably think of a 5th, but 4 guys that I think deserve mention as being really important pieces over the years.
Okay.
So Damon Lenko, he was a pseudo number 1 center for us at times. I mean, he was certainly pushed into that role and had a couple of big years, including a 77-point season, 30 goals. Very reliable right up until his neck injury and subsequently leaving Calgary shortly thereafter. Alex Tanguay, the line mate that Iginla kind of never had in a sense, put up some big years. Similar to Tanguay was Mike Camilleri. He was, he had 39. He was the only forward I think ever outscored Jerome in goals during his time in Calgary.
So it's from 2000 on, though, right?
Yep.
So, okay. I'm trying to think time frame. Okay.
And the last guy, and I can think of some more perhaps, but the last obvious one to me that deserves to be mentioned is TJ Brodie. He played a lot of hockey for the Flames.
Ooh, I couldn't put TJ Brodie on there, though.
That's okay. Give me what you got. Give me a few names. And it's okay if it's one that I've already mentioned, because, I mean, it's not like we've been, brimming with talent for the last 25 years.
The one thing I kept thinking was there's got to be another goalie, but there isn't.
The only other goalie that I could think of, and it's almost not worth mentioning because it was so brief, but Curtis Joseph in that half season in 2008, 2009, only because he was the only goaltender to stabilize the backup position behind Mika Kiprusoff during his entire tenure in Calgary.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. So there was Roman Turek initially and Jamie McLennan, and Turek actually, played well when he wasn't hurt in that 03-04 season. Turek, McLennan, Phil Sauve, Brian Boucher, who else? Joey McDonald was kind of a transition goaltender. Who else backed up Kiprusoff? There was a lot of them. Oh, Curtis McElhenney.
One name, I guess, that kind of popped into my head. I'm only cutting you off because I'm going to forget this if I don't.
Mm-hmm.
Jay Bouwmeester kind of stuck in my head too as a defenseman candidate. I don't know who he would take out, because he surely wouldn't take out Giordano or Regeer or Anderson for that matter. But
I wish we had seen him with a more offensive-minded coach, because I remember his seasons under Brent Sutter. Like, his offense was extremely underwhelming in Calgary, disappointingly so for a big rangy defenseman with the skill level that he had. He always left me wanting more, like always. Yeah. And it drove me crazy. I mean, still a good point, because he was a huge acquisition for the Flames, but we got more the player we wanted when we had Dougie Hamilton than when we had Jay Bouwmeester in my mind.
Man, if this was a 50-year team, it'd be a whole lot different. But the 25,
it's tough. It's tough.
It's tough because the guys on here are really good, solid players. I'm trying to think of anybody like current roster off on the offensive side. No one's making it. Defensively, Anderson's the only guy right there that stands in, and I mean, a big to be determined on Dustin Wolf, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think in even 2-3 years, that's a very different conversation. I mean, it's not. If he sticks around, if they give him a long-term extension, which I'm ready to commit to because I have that much faith in the guy. If they have him for any length of time, when you think about goaltending beyond Kiprusoff and Mike Vernon, the next guy to catch is probably Markstrom and Trevor Kidd.
Yeah.
You know, Freddie Brathwaite, surprisingly, is quite up there in Flames wins too.
He is.
You know.
Did you happen to see, like, okay, like we're talking about Wolf and the Calder and all this, but it's kind of quieted down and you haven't heard a lot. They did a mid-season poll, and Dustin Wolf was fourth. Celebrini was first. Lane Hudson of Montreal was second. Mishkov of Philly was third, and Dustin Wolf was fourth. I can't help but think that that's not going to continue to rise for Dustin Wolf if his play continues the way it is.
Well, if you take the Rookie of the Year and all things being equal, and then you throw in what should be a consideration in terms of value to their team, this team, I like Ladar, but they're sunk without Dustin Wolf. He's like 14-6 or something foolish, 916 save percentage, I believe. Like Lane Hudson, I'll be honest, I did not realize how many points he had in Montreal until a few days ago.
He's been really good. I watched him the other night, and he's been really good. And Mishkov is heading the wrong direction. He's struggled a little bit lately. And Celebrini, he's really the only show in San Jose, and he's a really fun player to watch. I sit and I watch him, and I'm like, oh boy, he may be better than Bedard. I mean, there's arguments for that, right?
Yeah, and I mean, and I'll listen to them all day at this point. But I think what would happen, or for this to happen, if the Flames make the playoffs, let's just say that they do. People who don't follow a team are going to say, how the fuck did they do that? Then they're going to look at the stat line and see Dustin Wolf and like, holy shit, who is this kid? If they haven't figured it out yet. If he plays more games relative to his counterpart Dan Vladar in the second half, he wins the Calder. Hands down in my mind. I don't see how he wouldn't if he gets more starts. If he keeps splitting duties, I'm not convinced.
I hate to say this. I don't think he gets it no matter what, because Macklin Celebrini is the favorite name, the talked about name in the preseason. And I just, unless he gets hurt and falls out, like, it's his. I hate to say that because I think Dustin Wolf for his team. I mean, we're nowhere near where we're at right now without the play of him. So yeah, importance of teammates should be much more of a factor in that award and a lot of other awards, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I saw you get a little fired up on X yesterday.
Okay, and grass is green. What else is new? What was I pissed off about this time? Was it about Kevin?
Well, the Flames call up Rory Cairns. He leads the AHL with 21 goals in 34 games. With Zary out, that was the call up. I don't think that surprised you. I don't think it surprised me at all.
Right.
He doesn't play the first game against the LA Kings, and X goes crazy. I wasn't upset about it. I got it more. I mean, I didn't. Last year they would have had, freaking Sutter hung by a flagpole for that. And this year, most people are letting Husk off the hook.
You're talking 2 years ago now.
2 years ago. Sorry. It doesn't seem.
Now, I'm going to explain why, because it's not just a matter of wanting a young kid to get a chance, although I did say you couldn't be more deserving of it. What I shared with you earlier, and again, our buddy Rob Munich had clearly stated this, is Kevin Rooney is getting his head caved in every single night when he's on the ice. And for a team that's in a playoff race, like, this guy has got to sit. He's contributing nothing at either end. And it's like, okay, take him out, just see what the kid's made of in a game. I mean, if you had a more reliable center in the fourth line spot who was driving play in the right direction at least part of the time, was winning faceoffs more regularly, was actually contributing to the penalty kill, I wouldn't really care that much. But he's got to come out of the lineup. Like, he needs to sit because he is a detriment to the team right now. And I hate to be that cruel or frank about it, but the stats bear it out. Like, he's hurting this team big time every time he plays.
I saw Robert's tweet or X there, and I agree. And man, I love what Robert puts on X. He's nails it on 99% of his stuff. But I saw that and I put it down as a talking point today too, because I've defended Rooney many times, and I'm having a harder time as the season goes. I understand the role of a fourth line center, and it's not to generate a ton of points. It's to hold defensively, right? And so, like, I get it, and I don't know that Rory Cairns is your, prototypical fourth line center. But then again, I don't know that this team right at this stage right now needs it or has a prototypical fourth line as constructed anyways. So I don't know.
Well, I think that's something they should look at, because there's some mentorship opportunities with those fourth line roles, and Kevin Rooney and Walker Duehr are not really, neither one's playing well at all, quite frankly. Ryan Lomberg is a spark plug.
I don't mind Walker Duehr's game this year. I don't. I love what he brings speed wise. I guess we should mention that he did go out of the game last night after taking a really, really, really hard hit into the end boards. And I have not heard an update on where Duehr's at there.
I think he's just shaken up, but we'll see. But of course, Lomberg, came to his defense and almost loved the team and the real glue guy for that locker room. But yeah, I think Duehr's been very, very poor lately as well. And those two guys, well, they got to start contributing something, because they're not contributing anything.
What do you expect from, so you don't think Duehr contributes anything defensively at all? Like, I don't hate his game. I don't hate his game. I'm not real.
I like his game. Right, yeah, like I like their games when they're playing well, but I mean, Duehr's not winning puck battles. They're not getting any shots on that lines on the ice. They're constantly defending. Like, I agree. They're, like, the puck is always coming at them. I'm not expecting them to go out there and score goals. I'm not even expecting much more than some neutral zone play, right? Yeah. A couple up and chases, maybe get a shot here and there. I mean, that's what you want, is just to tread water and let your bigger guns, so to speak, rest up. But as of right now, I haven't liked either player the last few games. We don't have a lot of options in terms of who we dress right now, but I do think that needs to be addressed going forward. They got to start contributing something, because right now I'm not seeing anything.
I would agree. I would agree with that. What would you put if you were making lineup for tomorrow night in Chicago? What would you put for a fourth line?
If Duehr's good to go, I'd sooner sit Rooney and give Cairns that chance. I'd shelter him a bit in terms of his defensive zone starts and that kind of stuff. But I think it's important to see if the kid, can he make a good pass at the NHL level and keep his head above the water in terms of possession and those types of things. I have no doubt he can, but you got to work him in somehow. Yeah.
So you'd have Cairns centering Duehr and Lomberg as a fourth line then?
I'd start with that. Yeah. I'd start with that. It's hard to say, because I mean, if the Flames continue to look like a possible playoff team, I wouldn't mind acquiring a little more of a veteran presence for that fourth line, because we had
either. Mind either.
Yeah, we had a few guys that that could have helped a little more, but like I mentioned, Kirkland and Mantha being hurt. There's a little bit of a leadership void, I feel. You got Kadri, Huberdeau, Uyghur, Anderson, Backlund, of course. Lomberg just won a Stanley Cup, and like I said, it's just his enthusiasm for life in general is infectious. But I'd be okay to see another piece brought in that can win face-offs, maybe right-handed center, which is not easy to come by necessarily, but just a little tweak.
I'm sitting here looking. Okay, let's say we move forward into even get closer to this playoff hunt, right? Would you mind acquiring a fourth line center and then having Dryden Hunt as your right wing?
I'm kind of funny. We haven't talked about Dryden Hunt in a while. I'm kind of over him.
I know.
He's
always
he's always going to be a tweener, right? Like he's not an NHL regular. I don't think. I
agree, but every time I watch him play, I'm like, gosh, this guy's getting harder to not be in the lineup. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't believe I even brought his name up. He hasn't been talked about on the pod for
a long time. Yeah.
Long time.
What about the other two defensemen? When do we see one of them again? Maramonov or Tyson Barrie?
Can I say something without sounding like too big of a dick?
I don't know. Can you?
I don't know if I care if we see him again.
Wow. Well, I mean, in a certain back-to-back situation, it makes sense.
No, I think Miramonov still has something. I feel like we got to give him some chances simply because I got to see what we have for the future there. I do. I feel like I need to know more. I don't think it's fair of me to say I'm done with him, right? Because I see there's some skill there. I don't know how to get it out on a consistent basis.
Well, that's
because I'm not seeing it on a consistent basis at all. At all. It's a good game.
Nobody has.
Bad game, good game, bad game. Can't live with that on defense. I can't live with that on defense. As far as Tyson Barrie goes, I was hoping for bigger, better things, and I'm not seeing it, so I'm ready to cash in my chips there.
We haven't seen him in a while, but if the power play goes cold, he would most certainly draw in. I think one of the variables there is that Joel Hanley is playing a bit above his own head right now, if I can say that politely. Like, he's been much better than anybody expected.
Good.
Yeah. Now, last night, I didn't like the game from either him or Wpg. I thought they both, Hanley kind of fumbled the puck at the blue line. Wpg get stripped of the puck. Like, neither one was great. For a 2-1 game, I would have expected they would have been better, but that's professional hockey. That's hockey in general. That's going to happen, right?
I didn't like Wpg last night at all. I thought Hanley was meh. I didn't like Bean that much last night. Like caught looking a couple times, and I was like, oh boy.
Right now, we're hoping that we get goals from Coronato, Huberdeau, and Kadri, and that's about it.
Oh, yeah. And we need Coleman and Backlund to pop in a couple here and there. We do.
Yeah, for sure. But we also, when's the last time Rasmus Anderson scored?
Long time.
And when's the last time Mackenzie Wpg scored?
Long time.
Yeah, exactly.
And you need input from your defense offensively. You just do.
Yep. And that's the thing. I mean, it's we always knew it was going to be goals by committee, but it becomes a much more dire situation when Sharangovich and Kuzmenko, guys that we probably all penciled in for 40 to 70 points.
Yeah.
And they are not even in the same universe as guys scoring those points. So stay tuned. And I mean, depending on the situation with Zary when he's back, I mean, you never know. Maybe Karen surprises us. He sure self-surprises us, by getting a call-up and likely going to become the first player that I know of, at least, to have never played a preseason NHL game and make his NHL debut. That is a wild, wild stat.
He's never played I guess I never thought of that.
Yeah, he has been Group C in training camp ever since he joined the team, and that's a remarkable. I mean, you talk about guys that never get drafted and go on to play 500,000 games. That's a pretty significant feat. This is pretty amazing. A guy that nobody took seriously enough, or a guy who didn't assert himself enough in any given camp to warrant consideration to play in a preseason game.
Wow,
that's wild. That is wild.
I did not know that. That's an amazing. Holy cow.
Well, I mean, when you look at like the top 20 Flames prospects the last years, I mean, he was 15 to 20 if he was even on the list, right?
Yeah. And I do think we'll see him in the lineup on Monday night against the Blackhawks. I really do.
Well, and especially again, if Dewar's a little banged up, I mean, it would make sense. But I mean, and the Flames have done a much better job of this. So before I sound too critical, as I often do about anything, they're doing it a lot better. They're giving guys chances, generally speaking. I like what Ryan Husk has done as a coach for the most part. We're always going to have qualms. We're all armchair coaches at times.
We're never going to not have a few things here or there.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's going to be fun. And the other fun part is it's an Amazon hockey game.
It is an Amazon hockey game. I saw that. I'm excited for that.
Yeah, likewise.
So this week, Tuesday night, we beat Anaheim 3-2 in overtime. Goal from Huberdeau, which was a bonkers goal. Wednesday night's game against the Kings in LA gets canceled due to the wildfires in Los Angeles area. And then, which would have been a back-to-back, or not back-to-back days, but back-to-back games against the Kings, turns into one as they come to the Dome last night, and Calgary wins that one 2-1. Now this week, things get really busy.
Yes, they most certainly do.
We'll talk about that in a minute, but I got two other things I want to talk about before that.
What do you got?
I got two more things. Well, first of all, we need to mention the Devin Cooley and recent call-up Roy Cairns will represent the Wranglers in the AHL All-Star games, which means I've heard they get bonuses for that if they play in the All-Star game. Do you think Cairns will be like, hey, can I go down and get my bonus and then come back up? I think he'll just forego the bonus, but that's quite an honor for those two to make it. And we got Devin Cooley too. He's been a world of fire down there too. So,
well, the nice thing with Devin Cooley is if somebody needs a goaltender, we decide to trade Vladar. We've no problem penciling him in as backup.
I would not think so. I would like to see him in a few games at the NHL level, but But I don't know how that's going to happen this year, unless an injury happens, and we surely don't want that. So,
well, we're gonna see Wolf and Vladar because we have back to back this week. Some confidence, and then actually, that's so strange. There's not really much travel this week, despite all the away games we're playing.
We're gonna get into that in 1 second. I want to. I got a question for you though, and then this is my last deep thought about this. Matthew Coronato. I need to talk to you about him because I slightly feel guilty, Kyle.
Okay.
Because I know we can rewind the tape. I've bitched about his foot speed. I've bitched about various things with him, and it's not that I didn't think he was gonna make it. I was just I was impatient as hell, right? But what he's doing offensively and defensively and everything really got me thinking. And last night when I watched the game, I was like, he's the best player out here right now.
Yep, and it wasn't particularly close.
He's the best player out here. And which makes me super happy, but got me thinking and got me worrying a little bit. But it also brought me to the X factor too. And that's where Alec Russo comes in. He says, 8-year deal this summer, do it. So I started to think, he is a restricted free agent and it's his time, right? Where do we go with a Matthew Coronato contract? I think it gets done.
Oh yeah.
But where do we go with it? Like, what does it look like? And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. And by the way, thank you, Alex, for this week's X Factor.
I would love to do that because I do think he is your second line right wing, first line in the pinch, power play. Shots like his are hard to come by, especially right shots. I think, unfortunately, because the way the league is, the way the Flames are in particular, they're probably going to bridge him and say, "Hey, do it again, then we'll talk."
So what do you bid him at? Like a 3-year, $9 million deal?
Yeah, basically, that's pretty much exactly what I had in mind. Maybe $3.5 million. I'd try to go for more like a Rasmus deal. I'd like to see him sign the 5-6 year range at $3.5-4 million. I'd be okay with that.
Do you think he'll do that?
I don't know. We haven't seen a lot of I mean, other than Sharon Govich, we haven't seen a lot of Conroy contract work, right?
So if no, we haven't. And I liked what Tree Living did contract wise. So if he said, I'll do a 6-year 5.5, would you do it?
I don't think he has the leverage to ask for that much because he's going to finish this season around 20 goals. I think. I'd be a little hesitant because I'm trying to think of an example here. Bill McCult scored like 20 goals in Long Island, then he gets sent to Ottawa in the Zdeno Chara trade and scored 0 goals, and I think he had 7 assists. Now he didn't have anywhere near the shot, the pedigree of a Matt Coronato, but there's anomalies all the time. Guys can fall off the earth. I'd be hesitant to give him that much money, but I mean, hey, if he and his agent come to the table and say, "Hey, we love Calgary, we want to be here long term," I would avoid a typical bridge because I do think, and it's like I said, on X a couple times and talked to you about as well. Any trading to get better, to get a Pettersson or somebody like that, I really don't want to trade Zary or Coronato because they're 2/3 of what could be the best second line in the league and possible first liners. So.
Wolf and those two are untouchable to me.
I would agree. Yep.
I don't think you move either one of them, and I think Wpg is too in my mind. I don't know why I even say that because I've been frustrated with his game lately, but I do think that he's a key part. But what Coronato's done this year gives me a whole hell of a lot more hope for the future because I really, really like what he brings to the table, and I'm interested to see. I got a feeling you're right. I think it'll be a bridge deal. I think it'll be a $9 million ish range, but it got me thinking last night when I saw that tweet. I was like, boy, where do we go with that? And that probably brings us to future conversations here over the next few weeks on what happens with Ball and Zary and all those guys. So interesting times ahead. This week is a busy week and a weird week.
Very
we
weird.
have Chicago tomorrow night for an Amazon Prime game. And then Tuesday night, we're in St. Louis. Wednesday, day off, and then in St. Louis again 2 games, same team, same city. Weird. Reminds me of the freaking COVID year.
Yeah. So they do that, and then they go up to Winnipeg for Saturday's game on Hockey Day in Canada.
It is Hockey Day in Canada, which is going to be a full day of hockey watching as Ottawa, Boston, Toronto, Montreal, Calgary, Winnipeg, Edmonton, Vancouver. Geez, I'm going to be loving that day.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, it's a different week. Now, would you go with the same goaltender in both Blues games or split it between the two?
I'd split it between the two.
So you go Wolf, Vladar, so for Chicago, St. Louis, and then Wolf again on Thursday against St. Louis.
I go if I'm doing this, I go Wolf in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
I go Vladar the first game in St. Louis, Wolf the second game, and then Wolf again in Winnipeg.
So you're like most of us now, and let's start running with Wolf more.
I'm a 3-1 dude on Wolf now.
Yeah. How couldn't you be?
You have to be, right? And that's I'm still a Vladar guy. I still like what he is. I just think
I do too.
You know what I think? The future for Vladar is, and I'm sure he'd be pissed if he was listening to this and heard this, but I think he's a grade A backup. And I think we would love to have him as a backup. And quite honestly, if Devin Cooley brings us a big piece which I don't know that he would, but Vladar as a backup is good. Cooley as a backup, good. I mean, I'm happy. I think we're in a great position of power there too, right?
Yep. Yeah, and it ties into the broader context that I mentioned earlier. Like, we're in a very enviable position.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, based on all the pieces we have and where we're at in our retool, rebuild, whatever the hell you want to call it, like, what more do you want other than a healthy Connor Zary right now and a few more goals from guys like Sharangovich and Kuzmenko?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Game in Winnipeg is Saturday, late afternoonish, 5:00 Calgary time. And then we go no games until Thursday, January 23rd at home versus Buffalo. And then we go on a weird Minnesota Winnipeg back-to-back. Weird schedule here for the next couple weeks. Really, really weird. But that St. Louis, we got 2 games in a row this week with them. We currently sit at 47 points, 1 back of the final wildcard spot. They sit at 44. How important is 4 points here? Creates that separation, leaves us the only one in that race tight, and boy, that's almost a playoff 4 points, right? It's almost a playoff 4 points.
Well, and I mean, the Canucks are, they beat up on the Leafs, much to my chagrin. The Canucks lost a lot of ground recently, and the Flames have not made up much of it. They've been playing essentially 500 hockey of late, and they got to go on a bit of a streak. We need 4 or 5 wins, out of 6 or 7 or 5 in a row or something. Like, we need some kind of a hot streak to get ready for the break and, really give ourselves a shot. Otherwise, we're going to be trying to waddle the rest of the season.
Yeah, we really, really do. We need a little bit of a push, don't we?
Yeah, big time. I mean, we haven't had any winning streak to speak of since the season started. So.
No, we haven't. It's been win, loss, win, loss. Yeah, I don't even know if we've had anything longer than 2 games. I don't think we have. I don't think
so either. Anyway.
A couple of housekeeping things before we go. A couple of new followers this week. Justin Imick, Barnyard Cards, Eris Val, thank you for following us on X. We are back next week talking more Flames hockey. It was kind of a week of devastation, postponed games, a long break. I don't know if that helped or hurt, and then a huge win Saturday night. Wow. It's kind of a weird week if you're a Calgary Flames fan.
Yeah, I mean, who knows what this week will bring. So stay tuned.
A sweep in St. Louis, and we better go get 2 points tomorrow night in Chicago. Jeez, we have to get 2 points tomorrow night in Chicago.
Absolutely. So stay tuned. It's I kind of think of this quote: "It's never better, it's never worse, but it's always interesting." And that's a pretty apt description of late.
It is. All right, Flames fans, you have a wonderful week. Kyle, you as well. You have a really good week, and we're back next week.
You too.
Normal day, Monday night recording for a Tuesday drop next week. Enjoy your week, Flame fans. See you next week.
Later, guys.
Thanks for listening to Flames Unfiltered with Brad Burud and Kyle Lewis, your source for unfiltered Calgary Flames hockey talk. Keep it locked on flamesunfiltered.ca. Subscribe where you get all your podcasts to never miss an episode. Flames hockey talk every week, presented by Inside Edge Hockey Media Group.